I've had a lot of stigma coming from this kind of thing. I've had my own relatives ask me why I feel swollen. Some of them actually think that this is a whole kind of pretense. Hi guys, hello everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pauline Study, and if you're not yet subscribed, please do make sure to subscribe before this video ends and put a thumbs up and leave a comment. So I've been going through a lot from the past 10 years, almost half my entire lifetime I've had on this earth, and it took me a lot of courage to come and sit in front of the camera and start filming this, because I have really not liked the experience that I've had for the last 10 years. So like the title already suggests, guys, I got tired of that kind of suffering, and I thought I would come and let people know so that this whole thing could maybe reduce or come to an end. So I was diagnosed with venous insufficiency that's almost acute, and that was in, I think, June during lockdown. I don't remember the dates exactly. So I don't think so many of you guys know what venous insufficiency is, because this is a very rare condition, and that's why I came to talk about it today. So I've been suffering this kind of condition in my limbs, in my lower limbs and my legs. This condition affects your legs basically, and I've been suffering like being in this pain for almost 11 years now, because I started getting these symptoms when I was 12 years old, okay? This was almost when I was joining high school. So guys, anyway, let's proceed. So what happened is that when I was about 12 years old, I used to have my limbs swelling, like my feet would swell, and I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on? So even if I sat on the dining table for 2 hours, my feet would swell. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is just say something because I'm oversitting, that kind of thing. So I tried to reduce that. I never told anyone that I was having this kind of thing, because I was like, this is something everyone is going through. Their feet are swelling because they're sitting all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't take it that serious. So even when I would go to town, I'll come back when I'm really exhausted in my limbs, like so exhausted, and my feet would swell. Even when I put on clothes, shoes, I was like, maybe because my foot doesn't fit in these shoes. Even when I tried to buy bigger size shoes, like almost slightly longer than my feet, because I put on size 42. So if I bought 42 and a half, that's 8 and a half. I thought it would be better. It didn't. So I went to school in high school. I went for my ordinary level of high school, and my feet started swelling more often now, and because we'd sit in class for almost 1 hour, 2 hours, and you're not really moving out and all that kind of stuff. So I used to get my feet swelling all the time. So sometime I told my mom, like, my feet are swelling, mommy, what do you think? She's like, oh, don't worry about it, it's nothing serious. So I never really took it serious. So sometime I had a chat with my friends in high school in the dormitory. So I was like, you guys, my feet also all the time. So this girl came and told us how she has relatives who have diabetes, and this is one of the signs. So guys, at that moment I started thinking maybe this could be diabetes, but I think if we get it diagnosed first, we can get fine and all that kind of stuff. So the next visitation, when my mom came around, I told her, you know what, mommy, I think we should go to the hospital and try out have myself diagnosed for this kind of thing, because this is not really normal. I'm just 15 years old now and my feet are swelling this much. She's like, don't worry, those things are just to scare you. What? Those are just your friends telling you. Deep down, I knew this was something that was going to escalate at one point if we never really took it serious. So I'm like, okay. So I just kept quiet. So my feet kept on swelling and my S4, they kept on swelling all the time, and I would often have problems with teachers because I'm not always wearing school shoes, like closed shoes, and I'm always having to wear open shoes during class time. So I would have to always go to the sick bay to get a cheat for wearing open shoes. It would expire, then you go back for another, that kind of thing. It was really, really hectic. So my S4, we did the exams, I go for vacation, we come back for my S5, my Form 5. So this was a time where the thing was really, really, really going so bad, and we really never took it serious. So my feet started swelling so badly in my S5, and now I had changed school. I wasn't used to this kind of environment. Things were just so hard for me, but I just had to fit in because I was from a traditional school, and then I joined a private school where everything is like very, very, very different. So I was there, my feet started swelling all the time, guys. My feet started swelling all the time. And then in my ordinary level of high school, we never used to wear socks. In this school, I had to wear socks. And now this was even worsening the situation for me, because I had to put on socks, which are really tight, and then I again put on shoes. So for me, I thought these were also factors that were making my feet swell. So I used to wear open shoes, and sometime when I was going for my eye checkup for my glasses to be fixed, when my pops picked me from school, I was complaining my feet was swollen. He found me in open shoes, like, what's going on? I'm like, my feet are really swollen. There's nothing I can do about it. The best thing is for me to wear open shoes. Like, okay, so let's first go for the eye checkup, then we'll think about when we can go for that. So while we're at the eye checkup, we met this cousin of mine who is a doctor. So he tells her about it, and my cousin is like, oh, these are just normal things. Your feet are going to stop swelling. You're young to have such complications of your legs swelling and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to see a doctor. I need to go to a hospital and have myself checked. But it just went on like that. So guys, before I proceed with this, it's almost raining, so soon the light may reduce. So I'm like, okay, so I had my glasses changed. I went back to school. I never put on closed shoes for almost an entire term. My friends started asking me, Paula, why do you never even wear closed shoes? Why never put on socks? Why do you always put on open shoes? This already started making me feel bad. And then some people started saying, oh my goodness, your feet are really big, what's going on, what? So this started affecting me so bad that I'm like, okay, this is too much. So what I started doing was to wear some really tiny socks, which are not like very tight, and also that I could hide the size of my feet. But then this never really changed anything, because people would still ask me, my friends would ask me, Paula, why don't you wear closed shoes, and what's going on, okay? So I just never really took it. I never wanted to know that I was really feeling bad. They were over pressurizing me, over talking about me, and all that kind of stuff. So I never really bothered to show them that this was going on. So I just kept quiet. So in my S6, my Form 6, still the same thing was happening. I did my exams and my feet would still swell. My vacation, my feet would swell, but not that much, but they would still swell. So meanwhile, in my Form 5, is that when my feet used to swell, my right foot would really, really swell, and I'll feel a lot of pain in my left foot. So I did my exams, finished. Now it was time for me to join campus, okay? So time to join campus. I joined my first year. I came to do law at university. So in my first year, my feet were still swelling, okay? But they weren't that serious. So I just took it lightly. I tried to try avoiding overwalking, try avoiding oversitting, try avoiding overstanding, and this kind of stuff. So in my year 2, my mom, I started having a lot of it. It was so much that I would sleep when my feet are swollen, wake up when my feet are swollen, the whole time my feet are swollen, and I basically feel a lot of pain, like the heat was too much, that I would not even, and that I would feel heat. This was the heat that you can feel outside the body. I would feel it inside me, but even if you touch my feet or my legs, they wouldn't even be hot. So I wouldn't even sit in class for the 2 hours I was supposed to sit. I would always go out or always come late because I can't sit for that long. And then my friends would be like, oh my goodness, that girl over goes to the toilet. This is something that really, really, really hurt me, guys. Anyway, This really had me because guys will start talk about me all the time, that I'm always coming to class late, and that I can't stay in class for a very, very, very long time. And this was basically, no one actually knew about this apart from my very, very, very close friends, two of them. So after that, I decided to tell. I told my mom this was really, really getting serious, and so I told her, and then she's like, okay, so I think you should go to the hospital and get yourself checked up and see what goes on. So at that time, I was already on insurance. So when the hospital had said they were going to run tests of my body organs, from my kidney to my liver to every single thing, they even asked me, do you feel back pain? I'm like, no, I don't really have that bad back pain. But earlier on, I had an accident. That's a story for another time. So we went, and I went to the hospital. That's what they said. So they checked me up for every single thing. They checked my blood, my hemoglobin levels and all that kind of stuff. So at that time, I had an ionic anemia, which is very treatable. So they gave me medicine for that. But before that, they had to check all my organs, and everything was fine. So, because swelling feet is one of the signs of that kind of anemia, so they gave me medicine. I took it for a month, and my feet never stopped swelling, guys. My feet never stopped swelling. They were swelling more than ever. I remember there is even a time when my feet were really swelling. I want to try a photo here. And they were so bad that I couldn't even believe I was carrying those feet on my legs, because my feet would feel heavy, my legs would feel so tired, and I couldn't even stand this. So that didn't work out. So I'm like, I think I need to change the hospital. So I changed the hospital. I reached the hospital. I asked them to see a physician, and they told me the physician was out. So I'm like, okay, can I just see a general doctor, and maybe I could get something from that can make me proceed. So they told me you can see a general doctor. So I saw a general doctor. The general doctor is like, oh, let me have a look at your feet. By that time, when I went to hospital, my feet were really swollen. Like, you couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So, and people around the hospital were looking at me like, oh my goodness, could this girl be pregnant and she does not know about it? Because I don't know if that was the day for all pregnant women to go for their checkups, but there were so many of them. So the doctor told me, we're going to assign you to go for a ultrasound scan. That's for the feet. I've forgotten how they call it. So I went there. They checked for varicose veins. I didn't have them. They checked for my lymphatic system, how it was running, and everything seemed normal, though my feet were really swollen and bad. So my general doctor told me, wait for the physician is going to come, and maybe you'll have a you'll have a better diagnosis done. So I sat in the hospital for 4 hours, guys. I was waiting for the doctor, because I didn't see myself going back to hospital, and I mean going back to campus and then coming back to the hospital again, especially the fact that even when I sit and travel, my feet swell more than they would ever swell on a normal day. So I finally met the physician. So a physician checks me out, and physician tells me, you know what, your lymphatic system has a problem and you're having lymphedema. Okay, so I started swallowing this in slowly by slowly, and the doctor goes on to so I'm like, okay, so what is the treatment for this? At this point, my mom had already come to check me up on the hospital because she was working, so she's like, she would come by, and yeah. So she came. So I was in the room, and then the doctor tells me that. Now I'm like, oh, what's the treatment? So the doctor told me, unfortunately, there is no treatment. Guys, I looked at the doctor. I'm like, are you sane? Are you seriously telling me at this young age of mine that I'm not going to have a treatment for this kind of condition? Like, guys, I could not believe this, okay? So I just kept calm, and the doctor told me, though there is some kind of medication treatment that can make you be able to manage this and not make it worse. So he prescribed for me compression socks. Okay, I'm going to I'm going to show them in here in the video. So he told me compression socks. Then he told me about some other new technology that had come up for treatment, where people will go for compression every single, maybe twice a week, something like that. So he gave me the socks and that. So I reached and my mom asked me, so what did the doctor say? I told her whatever the doctor had said, and my mom was like, wow, this is serious. So after that, I'm like, great. So I'm like, maybe at least, even if I may not have a cure, at least I now know what's wrong with me. So meanwhile, the doctor told me that I did not have to oversee, I did not have to overstand, I did not have to overrun, I did not have to overwalk. Basically, everything that involved overdoing for my legs was a no-go zone for me. And then I started remembering how my friends were starting to nickname me as someone who never keeps time, someone who's always moving out, and they're all talking about me. And then I'm like, okay, how is this going to go since I can't even do this anymore? So anyway, I went back to school. When I went back to school, I had a discussion that night. So my friends asked me, what's that? I'm like, this is treatment for my legs. They're like, oh, okay. So continue the discussion. Then after that, the next day I had to wear the socks because the doctor told me I needed to wear them the whole day, then relax my feet before I removed the socks. Meanwhile, before all this, my feet were really swelling bad, okay? So I started wearing these socks. So first day I wore these socks, I'm like, so do I wear trousers or I wear a skirt? Okay, I was confused because firstly, I'm not a person who likes wearing skirts. I don't even own a skirt in my life, apart from dresses and skirts maybe for church and parties. That's it. So I'm like, okay, let me just wear these with a skirt. So I wore them, and I was obviously supposed to wear open shoes. So I wore a skirt, it was a check skirt, and then I wore the socks. You know that halfway your toes are out and then they're just up to the knees. So I wore them and went to class. Okay, guys, this is why everything just felt like, oh my goodness. I never should have wore these socks. I think I should have just let my feet soak. So I entered class. Everyone was looking at me. Even my lecturer was looking at me like, did this girl feel like she should wear like this for my class? Did she think like this? But meanwhile, while I was going to class, every person was looking at me like this, turning their heads, okay? So when I reached class, people started telling me, why just like a Scottish? What? So I kept on trying to smile and laughing, but deep down it was eating me up because these people did not even have the courtesy to ask, oh, why just like this? They were just making fun of me. And this was not really nice for me. So I kept on wearing my socks like that every single time. People would keep on looking at me and I would really feel bad, but I just kept quiet. And yeah, but the time that it really ate me up was sometime when I was at school and no one vacation. So I came to campus to pick something from some officers and I was wearing these socks, but I was wearing trousers and stopped wearing them on skirt, okay? So I was going to board the bus back to the city, back home, and then while I was getting into the bus, someone really stared at me. This guy stared at me from the moment I was outside till I sat, and I was going to sit behind him. The guy looked at me, and I felt so bad. I even tweeted about it. I wanted to ask the person, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, why don't you just let me be? Why look at me with my socks? Like, why? But I just kept quiet, and yeah, so my feet kept on swelling. There was nothing I could do. I got a mini job. I would go to work and I wear the socks. So sometimes if a workmate asked me what's wrong, I told her what the issue is. So at that time, I had stopped wearing any kind of fashionable shoes. I would never wear heels, always as the flat shoes. Even if I was so smart, down the shoes would really turn you off. So sometime I stopped wearing them, okay? But before that, I met a vice chancellor who is a reverend, and he prayed for me. He's like, you're going to stop wearing this socks. So after that, I started feeling a bit better. So I'm like, I think it's time for me to just put these socks on a rest because the kind of mental trauma I've gone through is just enough. So I stopped. So that was the time I was really traveling a lot. So I get to travel to Nairobi and my feet have really, really, really swollen a lot. It was too much. So I'm like, no, I'm going to persevere. So I never wore them. I carried them, but I never wore them. all that way. So I kept on traveling and traveling and traveling. So my last journey that was in 2019. I traveled, and this was a 7 hours flight, and my feet were swelling, but I walk over so that they can get compressed. So when I returned, my feet were still swelling. Come 2020, my feet are swelling, guys. My feet were really, really swollen. So a certain reverend at church, a chaplain at church, was like, okay, my daughter also suffered from this. And okay, guys, I'm very sorry because I see the video is actually going to go very long, but I needed to tell you this so that every single person can get to know and this stigma stops. Okay, so he tells us, he gives my mom a doctor's number. So we finally contacted the doctor. That was last year when corona hit. So we went to the hospital. They did a scan. This scan is called, I've forgotten the name, but it really, really takes long. But this scan took, I entered at 2 and went out at 5. That was when everyone in the outward was going out. So I'm like, okay, so I was there for a whole time. So these guys did the scan. It really took long. Each leg was taking 2 hours, and the left one took 1.5. The first one took 2 hours. So while I was there, the gentlemen were talking to me. They're like, do you travel a lot? I'm like, yeah, I love traveling a lot. I was traveling with my mom. I even have a journey after this and what. So she's like, they're like, oh, this is not really nice. So after that, the guy was doing the real sound scan. Like the guy was putting that monitor on my legs, was like, okay, this is what is happening in your leg. Your leg, the diameter between your valves and the veins is supposed to be 3.5. But in your leg, in your right leg, down it's 8.5 and up it's 6.5. In my left leg, it was 4.5, I think, and 6.5, something like that. So they told me, so we're going to give you this cardiologist. Is it a cardiologist? Something like that. His specialty is in veins and blood-related things. So they're like, okay, we'll give you this. But meanwhile, they were telling me this, I was really feeling a bit frightened. They told me, do you have compression socks? I'm like, yes. I was given compression socks some time back, and yes, they're like, you have to keep on wearing them until. So I'm going to give you this doctor's number, and you'll go on and then interpret these results for you, and then they'll give you you get to know the way forward, either compression socks or surgery. But the way we see things for you, you might have to go for surgery. In my heart, I'm like, you guys are joking with me. The thing, I've been through a lot. For you to start suggesting surgery for me, I've not yet even accomplished the things that I want to accomplish. So I just believed. So they told me that, but these guys were really friendly, so they encouraged me. They didn't really make it so bad, but the guy told me, please, if you're going to travel, make sure that you wear your compression socks, because right now you're so prone to getting so many blood clots, and that itself is very, very dangerous for your system. So I'm like, okay, but earlier on I had traveled, and the longest journey I had traveled, I had worn my socks, and my feet were they still swell, but they don't swell that much, and even when they swell, that the socks compress them back. So we got the number, we reached home. I told my mom. I went back the next day, picked my results, because these results, you don't get them like blood tests which should take 15-30 minutes. No, they even take long, especially if there's so many people. So reached home, we called the doctor I was supposed to meet, and yeah, but before we even went to the hospital for this scan, I was already telling my mom, Mommy, I've had enough of this. I already have stocks. Why should we go on and go for this test? I'm really, really, really tired, okay? She's like, calm down, Paula. I know you've been through a lot, but we need to go. So had that test done. Now it was time to go and see the real doctor, the surgeon, the one who deals in this stuff. So called the guy. The doctor was like, yes, come meet me on this day, Saturday, 3 p.m. be at the hospital. So I'm like, okay. So his hospital is called something like Surgeon's House, Surgeon's Plaza, I don't recall. So we went there. That time I had started my brand, so I needed to go check out the people who were printing my labels and my bags for packaging, and yeah, so my mom came and picked me up from there. So went to the hospital. So when we reached the hospital, it didn't take us long for me to enter the room. So my mom was like, you can go in, because she was really, really exhausted and I could understand her. So I entered, and the doctor is like, okay, why results. So I show them to him. I'm like, I tell him my feet have been swelling for over 10 years of my life, and these are kind of symptoms that I feel, these are kind of signs that I get when my feet are swelling. So he's like, okay, let me read your results. So he sees them. He doesn't even take long because he's experienced in these kinds of things, so he understands how the measurements are and all that kind of stuff. So he opens his tab and he googles up something to show me, because he looked at me and he's like, this young girl needs to understand the kind of condition that she is going through. This was the moment that I felt like the world, I don't even know how I felt. Like, I felt so bland. I don't know, like, and guys, it took me a lot of courage to come and share this story, because even my own classmates and my friends don't understand this kind of condition. So he googles up and he goes up venous insufficiency. So he shows me and he tells me, see, these are your valves look like in your body right now. Your blood cannot flow very well, and so the blood keeps on flowing backwards. That's why your feet swell. And that at that time when I was wearing socks, but my feet were really looking swollen. But meanwhile, every single person, everywhere I would go, even in town, every single person would look at me with this thing of, oh my goodness, this person. Some people would not even want to look at me or talk to me. So he shows me, he's like, this is how you are looking like inside your body. And he was very calm with me, because imagine what if anything happened, what if I broke down in tears, what if I passed out, something like that, because this was really hard news for me to take in. And he told me that this thing was actually getting worse each day, okay? So he tells me, you're going to need surgery. And I'm like, excuse me, doctor, what did you just say? He's like, you are going to need surgery, and I think that you should have it during this lockdown, where you're not going to be very, like, this is how urgent the thing was. This guy practically told me I needed to go through surgery even the next day if it were possible. And he even told me, if your insurance covers your surgery, we can go to the bigger hospital and I do it from that, or if you like, we can do it from this hospital. His hospital is not bad. So at this moment, I'm like, okay, is this what it has come to? This was a decision I had to make, and my parents had to be there with me. And oh God, this was so hard. This was just last year, guys. The doctor tells me I had to go for surgery. And I'm like, okay, great. So he tells me that, and I move out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to my mom, and then we'll make a decision. So I went out, I told my mom. I started thinking about it. It was in my head for almost a full month, thinking about all this kind of thing, but I never even didn't want to think about me going for surgery, okay? Even now as I speak, my feet are swelling, okay? So I'm like, okay. So I went home, I told my mom, told my dad. I didn't even tell my siblings. It was so hard for me to tell them. My mama had to be the one to tell them. So she told them, and yeah, well, I could make a decision about it. Like, you know what? I'm going to have to pray about this thing more than ever. I've been praying about it, but I have to pray more about it. So I've been praying about it. I've never even made a decision to go for the surgery, because this was just last year. But as I speak right now, my feet swell so much. I recently traveled with my mom, and we went and also did some touring. And while we're there, everyone was looking at me, and oh my goodness, look at that girl. And it's so bad to me. Like, I feel so bad. Like, people be like, that young girl wearing those socks, what's the problem? Like, it is so bad. Like, this is really, really emotional for me, because I've gone through a lot, like 10 years, and at this point, it's really serious. Like, even when I get wounds on my legs, they really take a long time to get fine, okay? So, you know, normally your legs can get better, and like your wounds can get fine very fast, but for me they don't. So I have to keep on wearing socks. People sideline me, people talk about me so much. Like, it's so annoying, guys. There is a time I could not walk, guys. I could not walk. I literally had to keep lying in bed or seated, or I could not walk, guys. And there's even a video I shot when I could not walk. Like, it was too much for me, guys. That video, I made it, I felt like, you know what, I need to take a rest. 3 days down the road, guys, I could not walk. My feet were hurting a lot. But I prayed about it and pain kept on reducing, and I got better. I now started walking. But that time my mom almost failed to go to work. She wanted to stay home with me because really, as the only one staying at home, like being at home, everyone would go. So who would actually help me? Because I could not walk, I could not stand, I could not, like, basically I had to walk while limping. I couldn't even stand. I had to sit. Like, it was too. It was so much that it was. I didn't tell any single person. Like, I didn't tell my friends because I was like, okay, what's going to happen? But when I saw that I needed to do surgery, I told my friends, I'm like, look, I told a few friends of mine, I told them, look, this is what's happening, and I've been told this and this and this. So they consoled me and told me to think about surgery if I was going to heal me. But then the problem with this is that, you see, even if I was to take surgery, I'm not so sure that this is not going to happen, okay? Like, it's not going to reoccur, because even for the different doctors that I talked to asked me, and the ones I went to asked me, do you have this kind of thing in your family? Do you have anyone who suffer from this? I'm like, no, I don't know any single person. I haven't seen any person who experiences this. And I'm like, okay. So I was told that, and why today I came out to tell this story is because I've gone through a lot of stigma because of this. I have almost had my mental go down the drain because of how every single person is going to keep on talking about my feet. And by the way, before all this kind of stuff, there's a friend of mine that does biological science. So I used to ask him all the time, because I was so afraid to go to a hospital, because this seemed to be a serious thing, and he kept on telling me go to hospital and what. And so people have been stigmatized even up to today. Even when I wear my socks up to today, people keep on looking at me. I remember on travel with my mom, and guys were looking at me and what. So went to visit an auntie of mine. She was really shocked. She's like, oh, I also had the same issue, but mine is because of my age and all that kind of stuff. But mine is not that serious like hers, but we can recommend. So she started giving us some remedies and all that kind of stuff. So I told my mom, mommy, the doctor already told us, okay? Firstly, one of the things that the doctor told me, the final doctor who told me every single thing, what exactly was wrong with my feet, told me that no one should lie to you that there is medication that you can take for this, okay? There is no medication that's going to take out this swelling, because your valves are spoiled. So that means your veins cannot carry blood to the heart, okay? They cannot take your blood to the heart, and that's why your feet are swelling. Guys, this has been almost my entire lifetime. I'm experiencing this, and I'm getting to know it after 11 years. Guys, this is my 11th year, and I've been living with this. I pray about it every single day, and I tell the Lord, if you feel like this is how it should be, let it go in a nice way. Let nothing happen to me, because sometimes I was telling my mom, mommy, I am really tired of this swelling. Could we just pray about this? Have a special fasting for this? Go sign those papers, go on that table and have my legs open. Because even the doctor told me we would have done a closed surgery, but then we cannot, because your veins are really so badly off that what we're supposed to cut from is near the nerve. So slight mistake is that you could stop walking. So the best thing is to open up your leg and cut out those veins, and then the blood can start flowing in the other smaller veins. Something that I forgot to tell you guys is that this thing is really serious, that my main veins are the ones that are affected, not even the smaller veins, okay? So I'm saying this because so many people are having their feet swelling, and they've had it for a very long time, and they don't know exactly what is wrong. My advice is, do not be like me, who never took it serious. And even when I took it serious, my parents thought I just wanted to keep away from school, or I just they felt like it wasn't serious, because now it's really extremely serious, that there's nothing that I can do apart from praying and think about the surgery, okay? So if you know you're having your feet swell, please do, they are swelling abnormally, please do go to a hospital and have yourself checked. I have a friend who I found her feet swell exactly like mine. So guys, lights just went out, but I'm almost finishing. So I told her, you know what you have to do is that you're going to have to go to the hospital. I'm going to give you a number of a doctor that you have to go to. So her feet are really swollen, and it's even worse. They've been swelling since 3 years, and the stigma she goes through too is not nice. Because I've experienced it, I still experience it up to today, guys. If you ever see someone wearing those compression socks, don't even bother asking them. Don't overstare at them. Just act like they are normal. I think the things that my friends have done for me, my close friends have done for me, is that they've found this normal. They've not even bothered to ask me, though some keep on asking me, and I really feel irritated. But there is now other thing that can happen. So guys, I'm going to come to an end of this video. I think it's almost coming to an hour now, but I had to come out and tell you this because I was sick and tired. I was sick and tired, and I'm still sick and tired of this stigma. I'm still sick and tired of this whole asking. I'm still sick and tired of this rude staring. Like, okay. Anyway, if you like this video, please do put a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe. See ya next time. Bye bye. Love you.